Hey guys, my name's Jason, and I want to talk to y'all today about some items that I pretty much bring on every single trip. Now, this obviously isn't even close to everything I bring. This is really just stuff that I think that is essential, that I bring specifically for camping, and I think that a lot of people overlook these things. You know, obviously there's going to be my iCamper and my drawers, my peak-to-peak drawers, stuff like that. I'm obviously going to bring those on every trip because they are, you know, sort of built into my vehicle now. But these are some items that I bring every time, and I think that they are overlooked. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to cover is lighting. So I think a lot of people overlook lighting because they feel like they can just use their phone, or they'll use their headlights, or the lighting like, you know, up here that comes with the vehicle. So there's a lot of things you can do. I've used these in the past, and I do have these as backups. These are some Harbor Freight lights that I have. Sort of light stuff up decently. It's not a very wide throw with this light, and it's not a ton of lumen. I also have a few of these that I like because I can hang these up places, and you know, they stick and magnet, but again, they aren't necessarily the brightest lights. So what I've actually ended up going with is this here, the Devos Light Ranger. Now you don't have to buy this brand or whatever. This just happens to be, from my research, the best light. So far, I feel like this is the best item that I have added to my camping setup, and I'll probably end up getting more of these. So the reason I really like this one is because it can go up to 9 feet and throw a really wide light. It's got a bunch of different settings, but you know, this is a little bit more expensive than something like this, but you get the stand, you get a stake as well, and I think this is all around probably one of my favorite things that I bring. You can set it up high and get it out of your eyes and just have a really nice light around camp. You can also sort of achieve this with string lights, but they're very ambient. You're not going to be able to see very much. You will be able to see where your tent is. If you go out in the woods and come back, you'll be able to find it pretty easy. But for me personally, like I said, you don't have to go with this Devos Light Ranger, but this is, in my opinion, the best light for the money. But you can also get yourself a headlight, which is great for, you know, seeing directly in front of you. It's going to achieve pretty much the same thing as your phone, you know, pointing it directly at stuff. But personally, I just would rather have something a little bit more ambient, and is also rechargeable as well. So the next one is going to be a power bank. This is something I never thought I would need, but once I had it, I never could go back. I bring this thing everywhere with me. This is my EcoFlow Delta Max. This is a little bit of a higher end brand. It's not super cheap. You can get a River, which is a little bit cheaper. This one is 2,000 watts. But like I said, it's not necessary that you go with this brand. This is just what I trust. This is the product that I choose. So there's so much stuff around camp that I need a power bank for. I've acquired a fridge, I have a diesel heater, I have, you know, my phone to charge, my laptop, camera batteries, and heated blankets, stuff like that around the camp. Now, if you're going to be out for a few days, this is going to work fine. I will also bring my EcoFlow 160 watt panel. I do have a 400 watt panel as well from them, but I usually just grab the 160. This is pretty much as I would need at a campsite. Now, if I was doing van life or something like that, then maybe the 400 watt panel would be better. Something that I bring every single time I go camping, and I think it's something that people overlook a lot. Now, you don't have to go with this brand. For me personally, I believe in all of my research, this is the best bang for the buck, and I trust this. I bring it every time I go camping with me. So another thing that I always bring with me is the two-way radio. I have a few of these. I have the Ham Baofeng here, and I have these Midland radios as well. This one will require a license to operate, but this one can be used by pretty much anybody. This is an FRS radio. This is a family radio, so you can use all of the frequencies on here without a license. So if you don't have a certification, or you don't go out with people that don't have a certification, I would recommend just going with an FRS or a GMRS, which also will require a license, but does not require a test like this. If I'm out with a group of people and we are going to be off-roading, or we're going to be trying to find a campsite, then I want to be able to communicate with other people. I think a lot of people overlook it because they're like, oh, maybe I'll have service, or I'll just get out and talk to them. Getting in and out of your vehicle just to talk to the person in front of you, kind of coordinate directions. Hey, am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? You know, where's the trailhead from here? Does anybody have a map? Stuff like that. It's really kind of painful. So just being able to talk back and forth for, like, you know, anywhere from like $30 to $100, These are pretty cheap and they'll work just fine. For a little bit more advanced, this is the ham radio. This is going to be able to get you a lot more frequencies and a lot more channels. You will have to be licensed to use this. So even though I prefer to use a FRS or GRMS radios, I still always bring the ham with me, because one of the really cool things about ham is that there are certain stations on here that are emergency stations. So if you're stuck really far out in the backcountry and you don't have service and you need assistance, then you'll be able to contact someone in an emergency. Also, if you do have one of these and the person is not licensed, it is okay in an emergency to use this to get yourself safety. Now the next one is going to be a way to jump yourself while you're off the road. This is going to be a way to self-jump yourself. Just jumper cables I don't think is going to cut it. Now recently I was out filming this winter camping video and I was out there by myself. I was running my heater, I had my radio on, and I was using a lot of electricity. So with the radio on, I didn't realize that my engine wasn't on the whole time. When I went to start the battery, the car wouldn't start. I was a few miles from the nearest road, and even then I still didn't have any service. So luckily I was walking, and in about an hour someone picked me up and found me. So I got really lucky in that situation. The second that I got back, I went ahead and researched these and ended up finding that this was, as far as I can tell, the best one. There are some other brands out there. I'm not saying you have to buy this one. This is just what I went with. It comes with this pack and these as well. So you keep this. So I just keep this in here and I keep it in my drawers. You know, this is helpful for anyone on the road as well, but especially when you're in backcountry and there's no other vehicles around you, this is really a great way to keep yourself, you know, from being in a pretty bad situation. A big thing that I bring every time that I think a lot of people overlook is pocket knives. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have like a little Leatherman or maybe one pocket knife. Well, I would say that bringing multiple knives with you that have different functions are pretty much the way to go. I always bring my cleaver style knife here. I have this emergency one, and then I also have my EDC one. These two here actually serve pretty similar functions. I've also got this one that I use more for cutting meat and eating. While I'll be maybe over carving something with wood or, you know, getting this one dirty, then I don't have to use this same knife for my dinner. I can use this one to eat. And that way I've got multiple knives and I don't really overlap. Now, I use these dispatch knives. I'm not saying you have to use a certain company, you know, go ahead and get whatever knives you feel comfortable with. I just found that these are a really great budget option, and they have a lot of different knives available that I really liked. But yeah, I think it's something that people really overlook. I would recommend probably having at least 2 different knives that serve sort of different functions. You know, one for cutting stuff around the campsite, maybe one for actually eating. That way you're not really mixing stuff, getting bacteria in your food. I would say don't overlook the knives. This is something I bring with me every single time. This is a major one that I bring with me every single time. It is basically an emergency backup food. Now, I'm not saying you have to go with oatmeals. This is just what I've gone with. You can go and get yourself some MREs. That way you can pull up to camp late. You can just boil some water and pour it in there. Set these down and get your camp set up. Now, the reason I went with these is because they don't actually even need a stove. You can use Gatorade, water, you know, really anything around camp that's liquid. As long as you have enough to fill this up, then you can just set these down and set up camp and not even have to worry about it. Due to the nature of trying to find camping spots for free, you know, not reserved camp spots, sometimes you end up looking for camp spots pretty late. I keep these with me at all times so that I have an emergency backup. And you know, even though you may bring chips or something like that, this is a much more sustainable meal than, you know, eating Cheetos or something at camp because you don't have any time to cook. So I think stuff like this is overlooked, but I bring this every single time I go camping, and I've actually had to use these more than a few times. Now, there is one that is a little bit controversial, and I don't really want to talk about it too much on YouTube, but I keep a Glock 20. This is something that I feel a little bit more safe with around camp because there's large animals out there, you know, people, stuff kind of snooping around camp, and if that ever happens, you know, you want to have a way of protecting yourself, so you can use something like that. I also always bring bear spray with me. Now, this is meant to take down a bear, so I feel pretty comfortable using this on a pretty large animal. So within this same category, I'm also going to say, in terms of personal protection, you want to keep yourself protected from, you know, injuries that are going to be life-threatening. First off, we have a first aid kit. Now this is going to be great in a lot of situations where you need to cover something with a band-aid, you've got a headache, something like that. This will work really well. Also in a situation where you might hurt yourself in a pretty traumatic way, you've got tourniquets, stuff like that. You've got a way to cut away clothing if you need to get below clothing if someone's injured. So every single time I go camping, I bring my trauma kit as well as my first aid. Now, right after this video, I will be dropping a video on the Dark Angel kits. This is the header kit. I'm not saying you have to go with Dark Angel, but this is just a brand that I really like. It is veteran owned and operated, but I definitely bring these with me every single time I go camping, and it's possible that you probably should look into something like this as well. If anything, maybe a small first aid kit and a tourniquet, and just learn how to use it. But I bring this on every single trip that I go on, and I'd recommend maybe you look into it as well. Now, something I bring with me on every single trip now is this Maxi-Track. It's sort of like a trasharoo. I bring this on every single camping trip, and it's something that I sort of actually used to make fun of. I never really got it, but once I tried it out, I was like, okay, I get it. This is very important. A lot of people say, oh yeah, you can just put a trash bag inside your vehicle. But now that I think about it, that is kind of one of the more disgusting things to do inside your vehicle. If you're going from one camp to the next, you're driving around having, old food, beer cans, stuff sloshing around, just getting that smell inside your vehicle. So this is a Maxi-Track brand. This is Napa. I bought this for a video and I really didn't think I needed it, but after I used it, I'm never going back again. If this breaks, I'll end up buying another one and another one and another one. So you can basically get the standard Trasharoo, you can get the Maxi-Track, or you can go all the way up to an expensive one like the Blue Ridge Overland. So that one is very expensive. It doesn't have the same problems as this one and the Trasharoo do, where it fades, it kind of gets a little nasty. The Blue Ridge Overland is going to be something that really holds up. Basically, this sits on the back of my ladder, and I just put trash in it in a trash bag, and then I can drive from campsite to campsite. It makes cleaning up so much easier, but for only 30 bucks, I think it's just a really great way of keeping things clean inside your vehicle, keeping trash outside. Now, we always do want to pack out what we pack in, so don't leave trash around site. This is a great way to do it. I bring this on every single camp trip that I go on, and it serves me really well. So for the last one, a lot of people bring their stove, stuff like that. Maybe they think they can just cook on the fire. Now, something that I always bring with me when I go camping is a cast iron pan. The reason I do this is because I put this on the stove and cook on it like that. But because this is cast iron, I can actually set this directly on the fire if I have a fire pit. I believe you can also do that with carbon steel, but cast iron is so much cheaper. This is really great because in all of my videos, I pretty much cook on this. If I don't cook on this, I will cook on my Blackstone, which actually is cast iron as well. So the only thing about these that is a little bit of a downside is that you will need to know how to maintain them, just keeping them properly oiled and just cleaning them and keeping them well taken care of. I bring this on every single trip that I go on, but for only 15 bucks, you can have a way that's pretty much a foolproof way of either being able to cook on the fire or on your stove. And it's super, super helpful. And I always bring it with me. Let me know if there's anything below you guys think. Obviously this list wasn't everything, but if you guys have any suggestions for what I should include, type them below. Or if you guys want to see another list video from me of stuff that I have or stuff that I'm thinking about getting, just let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for stopping by and checking this out. See you guys in the next video.